Imagine waking up to discover your life savings, the nest egg you spent decades building, has just vanished. Poof, gone. The screen says zero. The account is empty. Your future erased. Imagine finding out the company you gave 20 years of your life to, a respected titan of industry, was really just a house of cards. Or how about a world where a single drop of your blood could unlock every secret your body holds, a promise that captivated everyone, only for it to be a complete and total lie? This isn't a movie plot. This is the brutal reality for millions who fell for some of the most audacious, devastating, and, let's face it, brilliant scams in history. Today, we're counting down the 10 biggest cons the world has ever seen. We'll get into the minds of the masterminds who pulled them off, from 18th century hucksters to Wall Street gurus who turned greed into an art form. How did they fool so many smart, powerful people? And more importantly, what are the timeless red flags that once you see them, you can't unsee? Stick around. Number 10. Bernie Madoff, the Ponzi king of Wall Street. For decades, he was a Wall Street wizard, a former NASDAQ chairman whose firm offered something that seemed just a little too good to be true: steady returns of 10 to 12% year after year, whether the market was soaring or crashing. Bull market, 12%. Bear market, 12%. Crash, still 12%. His client list was a who's who of the rich and famous. They all thought they were in on a secret. The truth was way darker. Madoff was running the largest Ponzi scheme in history. He was taking money from new investors to pay profits to old ones. New money in, old investors paid. Nothing real created. Then the 2008 financial crisis hit. Panicked investors wanted $7 billion out. The river of new cash dried up, and Madoff's empire collapsed overnight. The actual cash lost was nearly $18 billion. When the FBI showed up, Madoff simply said, "There is no innocent explanation." Number 9. Enron, the house of cards built on fake math. In the late 90s, Fortune magazine called it America's most innovative company for 6 years straight. But behind the scenes, Enron was a disaster held together by lies. The company was hiding billions in debt using a ridiculously complex accounting trick. Imagine shoveling all the junk in your house into a closet and locking the door. That's what Enron did. They used shell companies as secret closets to hide massive losses, and their own auditors helped them do it. Real debt? Hidden. Fake profits? Reported. Stock price? Soaring. The bubble burst in 2001. A whistleblower tried to warn the higher-ups, but it was too late. The stock cratered. $74 billion of shareholder money evaporated, and 20,000 employees lost their life savings and their life pensions. The scandal was so huge, it led to the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, legislation to stop a fraud like this from ever happening again. Number 7. The South Sea Bubble, when even Isaac Newton lost his fortune. The South Sea Company was given a monopoly on trade with Spanish South America, and the public was hooked by promises of tapping legendary gold and silver mines. Fueled by wild rumors, the company's stock soared nearly 1,000% in months. January, £100. June, £1,000. Pure mania. People weren't buying because they believed in the company. They were buying because they believed they could sell it to someone else for a higher price tomorrow. Even the legendary scientist Sir Isaac Newton got swept up and lost a fortune. His famous quote afterward, "I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people." The catch, the trade monopoly wasn't that profitable. It was a bubble built on hype. When it popped, the stock crashed by 90%, wiping out thousands and throwing the British economy into chaos. Number 6. WorldCom, the pizza shop that called cheese an investment. Its CEO, Bernie Ebbers, the telecom cowboy, was a corporate celebrity. But as the industry slowed, WorldCom had a problem: how to keep up its image of growth. So they just made it up. They pulled off a shockingly simple accounting fraud. Imagine you run a pizza shop. The money you spend on cheese every day is an expense. Buying a new oven is a capital investment.
WorldCom just pretended their daily cost for cheese was the same as buying a new oven, labeling billions in regular expenses as investments. Cheese equals expense. Oven equals investment. WorldCom equals all ovens, no cheese. This one trick made the company look wildly profitable. A small team of internal auditors worked in secret to untangle the lies, discovering over 11 billion in fake entries. In 2002, WorldCom collapsed into the largest bankruptcy in U.S. history. 11 billion in fraud, 1 bankruptcy, 0 executives jailed. No senior Lehman executives ever went to jail. Number 3. 1MDB, the fraud that funded the Wolf of Wall Street. The 1MDB scandal involves a Malaysian state fund that became a personal piggy bank for corrupt officials and a flashy financier named Joe Low. Over $4.5 billion was siphoned out of the fund. To hide it, they laundered the money through a dizzying maze of shell companies. Malaysia, to Shell Company 1, to Shell Company 2, to Shell Company 3, to yacht, diamonds, penthouses. The money was spent on an absurdly lavish lifestyle, a $250 million yacht, luxury penthouses, and millions in diamonds. Joe Low even got a thank you in the credits of The Wolf of Wall Street, a movie about financial fraud, ironically funded in part with stolen money. The whole thing was exposed by investigative journalists, leading to the fall of a government and the imprisonment of Malaysia's own prime minister. $4.5 billion stolen, 1 government toppled, 1 prime minister jailed. Number 2. Tyco, the $6,000 shower curtain. In the late 90s, CEO Dennis Kozlowski and CFO Swartz Richards were treating the company's bank account like their personal ATM. They secretly paid themselves hundreds of millions of dollars in unauthorized bonuses and forgiven company loans. Bonus? Approved by themselves. Loan? Forgiven by themselves. Oversight? Zero. Kozlowski spent $2 million of company funds on a Roman-themed birthday party for his wife, complete with an ice sculpture of Michelangelo's David that dispensed vodka. Most famously, he had Tyco pay for a $6,000 shower curtain. $6,000 for a shower curtain. Company money. The scheme unraveled in 2002 when he was indicted for dodging sales tax. Investigators then discovered they had stolen over $150 million directly. Both executives were sentenced to up to 25 years in prison. Number 2. Nick Leeson, the trader who destroyed the Queen's Bank. In 1995, Nick Leeson was a hotshot trader for Barings Bank. The bank, 233 years old. The trader, 28 years old. The oversight, none. Unofficially, he was making massive unauthorized bets on Japan's stock index. At first, he was on a hot streak. Then his luck ran out. Instead of admitting his losses, he hid them. Thanks to a complete failure of oversight, Leeson was in charge of both making his trades and settling his own accounts, like letting a student write their own exam and then grade it. He used a secret error account, number 88888. Secret losses, no one watching. A massive earthquake in Kobe sent the markets into a freefall, and he ultimately lost an unbelievable £827 million, more than double the bank's entire capital. The ancient bank was sold for £1. 233 years of history, £1 sale price, 1 rogue trader. Number 2. Theranos, the drop of blood that was a drop of lies. Founded in 2003, Theranos promised to change healthcare with a device that could run hundreds of tests on a single drop of blood. 1 drop, 200 tests, 0 truth. Investors, politicians, and the media fell for it completely. Theranos was valued at $9 billion. There was just one tiny problem. The technology didn't work. It was like a magician claiming to have a box that creates rabbits out of thin air, but when it's showtime, they just secretly grab a rabbit from a cage backstage. That's what Theranos did. The machines were wildly unreliable, so they would secretly run blood tests on regular machines made by their competitors and fake the results. Theranos machine doesn't work. Competitor's machine, run the test. Theranos logo, slap it on the results. The lie was exposed by the Wall Street Journal thanks to a brave whistleblower. The company became worthless. Holmes was convicted of massive fraud and sentenced to over 11 years in prison. $9 billion valuation, 0 working technology, 11 years in prison. So, after all that, what have we learned? 3 red flags show up again and again. The first is the promise of returns that are just too good to be true, whether it's Madoff's impossibly smooth gains or Ponzi's absurd promises. If it sounds like a fantasy, it probably is. Red flag 1. If it sounds too good, it is. Another is the power of a charismatic leader who creates an aura of genius and exclusivity, making investors feel special just for being included. They're counting on you to trust them, not ask questions. Red flag 2. Charisma without transparency equals danger. And finally, a total lack of transparency is a giant flashing red flag. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If there's a case or story you want me to cover, drop it in the comments. It could be the next video.